When thinking about the legacy of the action platformer, it's hard not to think about Strider. It was a landmark title from Capcom that married fast-paced combat with an incredibly empowering sense of movement. You could climb up walls, hang from ceilings, and cartwheel around the screen effortlessly. Compared to other platformers of the era, it was as if the weights had been lifted off your ankles and you could finally move around in a game as you'd always dreamed of. Strider made it home to a variety of consoles, including the Mega Drive and the NES. Unfortunately, one of the few consoles never to receive an official version was the Super Nintendo. So, what was a ninja enthusiast to do? Never fear, Run Saber has you covered. This game is as close to a SNES version of Strider as you're likely to find. The inspiration is obvious from the second you start playing the game. The way your character moves, the attack animations, even the way they stand differently on slopes. Run Saber clearly wears its influence on its sleeve. This is not a bad thing, as the game manages to bring much of what was loved about Capcom's classic to the Super Nintendo, whilst also adding some neat touches of its own. You're able to choose from two different characters, Alan or Sheena. Their attacks have slightly different arcs, but are otherwise similar to play as. They both have the same range of movement, so running, sliding, and climbing around the levels isn't limited by the character you pick. Run Saber has solid presentation. It's not going to blow you away, but there are enough little flourishes in the game to keep you interested. The sprites are distinct and easy to follow, which is important when the stages get particularly hectic. Every once in a while, there'll be an especially interesting effect. A great example of this is the jet boss. It loops and rotates as you cling to it, taking down enemies until the jet finally succumbs to the damage and goes into a death spiral. It's an exhilarating sequence that really stands out. Outside of these scenes, the game shows a fair bit of restraint when it comes to the graphics. It's not the flashiest game, but it doesn't look out of place on the Super Nintendo either. Run Saber obviously draws a lot of inspiration from Strider, but there's one feature it brings to the table that adds to the experience in a big way: a two-player mode. It's great fun, and definitely adds something to the game which is different from its idol. It matches up with the game's focus on boss fights. Each stage is generally punctuated by several of them, breaking up the levels and giving you new challenges to face. Being able to do this in two-player gives the game a distinctly treasure-ish vibe, not unlike the two-player mode in a game like Gunstar Heroes. It's a nice addition to the game that helps it to stand out from the other action platformers on the system. And there were a lot of action platformers for the Super Nintendo, so you really are spoiled for choice. However, the Strider gameplay matched up with a simultaneous two-player mode really makes Run Saber stand out from the pack. It's not a long game. You and a friend will probably polish this one off well within an hour. But take it from me, that's going to be one fun afternoon.